Recording in progress.
Doje Changi Compagnie Topsho. And let's just do the 4 limitless contemplations. And I want you tonight to really take note of these 4 immeasurables, because the subject matter is so much around these. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Senchen tamche dewa tang dewe ju tang den va ju chik, dungal chichu tang trawa ju chik, dungal mepe dewa tampa tang mindrawa ju chik, nering chak tang ni tang trawe tang dom chempo lani pa ju chik. So, good evening, everybody. Please switch on your cameras if you can. And good evening, our beautiful Lama Yeshe Rinpoche. We are so happy to have you, even if it's for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. We are very happy. And you can see how many people have gathered together tonight to really see you and hear you. Annie Lama, will you take off the muting? Because I just put it on so that you could sing, because sometimes otherwise the singing doesn't go well. Yeah, that's great. So Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, when we come to the end of a year, it's always a very beautiful thing, especially when you can be in attendance. And maybe I would really love you to give us a little blessing maybe, and also to just make a little bit of talking about the subject matter, because what I've chosen as subject matter tonight is how do we transform happiness and adversity into the spiritual path. And I've taken a beautiful text by the third Drupchen master, that he's really given beautiful steps on how to transform happiness and adversity into the spiritual path. Happiness is much easier, but adversity is what you lamas have really got to teach us. And I really would like to hear a little bit from you tonight, like when all of you have gone through such amazing suffering and pain, but it never seems to be something that gets you. You put it straight onto your spiritual path. So it's really important for us to have you talk a little bit on it, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche.
Good evening.
There's echo.
Oh, sorry. I put it off. Sorry. Beg your pardon. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. And I want to say, I've been forced into this by Melanie here, so I better listen to her. That's how you say that we all know we have to be kind and tolerant and understanding. Talking this alone is no good. It's just lip service. What you have to do is always self-examine yourself. Do I have got all this all the time? So it's like awareness. Keep on practicing meditation, awareness, so that one day you feel, oh, whether things are happening to me, good or bad, painful or not, suffering or not, I can still be very aware of my circumstance and the situation, so I can have no problem in this part, because first of all, life is life. We have this compulsive body which has a lot of wrongs. We have a lot of sensitivities. When you have a lot of sensitivities, you get bothered by people's opinion, what they think about you, what they say, what they do. So long as this opinion is there, then your judgmental mind jumps into this. How come they don't like me? How come they criticize me? I'm doing everything I can in my power to be a good to them. So the most effective is when they are good to you and being good to them is easier. But if they are very uh, aggressive towards you, you're still tolerant and you're still good to them, that means really big changes coming in your life. So that's all you need to try. But then if you want to ask me more than that.
Yeah, well, what about when, for instance, I mean, all of you came from such unbelievable circumstances, like when you came on your trip from Tibet to India. I mean, you know, so many people were lost along the way. So many people went through so much suffering. And we want to understand, because whenever I ask any of these lamas a question like, how did you manage to do all that suffering? They always say, you know, part of the path, part of the journey, absolutely nothing, you know, nothing else. It's part of what we have to go through. So when you, for example, knew that your parents were really getting into trouble from the Chinese government when you and Ekong Rinpoche left, how how do you transfer that? How do you transform it into the pathway? How can you stop feeling resentful and irritated and you know, how do you take that adversity and really look at it in the mirror and see what there really is, you know?
Or when there is a no peace in the country, there is a big refuge coming out. Everybody suffers. That time only thinking is how to escape, how to save my life. There's no other than saving your life. But once you escaped, then you have some are fortunate enough to meet the right teacher and a time to practice. That is a time change, because if you don't get, even you came out, you suffered, all you have is this idea of revenge, whatever means, whatever your ability, you want to revenge. But then if a wise person come think, it is not every Chinese are not the enemies. They didn't kill us or they didn't give us a problem. As a policy of Communist Party, still they are reinforcing this all over Tibet. They don't have much freedom, but Tibetan people learn to tolerate. Under this, lot of patience, lot of tolerance, Tibetan people, the monks, are able to still continue in the monastery and study and practice. When they are in a good form, they are able to help the lay beings how to not to get upset, not to annoy the Communist Party members and officials. How you have to have tolerance. So that's where comes the teaching, comes the tolerance, and forgiveness. So when this you're able to achieve this, then there's a free, there's a liberation. If you don't do, then there's no freedom, there's no liberation.
You see, it's so, it seems easier when you're brought up with that. And I think in the East, you're brought up with that attitude. We are brought up with, you know, go against adversity and embrace happiness and look for it and look for it. You know, we have the opposite. I see it all the time. And I think that it's so difficult to change your whole mindset and use it as something really, you know, really something positive to look in. And I think that's where not Longche, but that's where the Do Drupchen has written this text, especially to show people how to try and change. But I think for Westerners, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, it's really difficult. It's a difficult thing because we brought up from day one with I, me, myself, and what I want and everything. We brought up like that. And we're not brought up, we avoid adversity. And when we have adversity, we're angry and we feel punished and everything. We don't see it in the same way. So I think it's
Very
a
easily see that if we start having revenge and take other from life, another will jump back. It's like, cobra snake. If you don't show any intention of hurting them, they never bite you. If they see any aggression, they bite you. Just like other people like us who feel that they get hurt by other ones and they want to hurt others. So we really need to know revenge after revenge is not the answer to our problem. Our problem can be solved by bring liberation in our own thinking mind. So even it takes a long time, it's a better solution for last longer.
Yeah, I think it is a better solution, but it's really difficult. It's not only the revenge, but it's people who feel like victims. You know, when they come across adversity, a lot of people in the West feel like victims, whereas your people, your Tibetans, don't feel, well, maybe a lot of them do, but the ones who've really progressed on the path, they can see adversity as a real lesson for them. But it's not true with us.
If you highly advanced practice, see that there is no I. So if there's no I, who can hurt I? This is a useless thing. We get hurt. Who get hurt? If you're able to possession have that thinking, there's nothing in the whole world that can hurt you. There's a specific teaching says, if there's no form, there's no sound. There is no sense, no smell, no eye. All this is just recognition of I is the biggest problem. So I is seeking revenge.
So did your mom, for example, did your parents and your people ever never emphasize I and you? Did they, you know, it was a group, but were you brought up like that, where you didn't have I, me, and
It's just
everything
a
self-centered?
family. A Tibetan ordinary family are very naive people. They think they don't have to practice Dharma. Lamas will practice for them. Lamas will solve their problem. So they don't do any of this thinking or practice. All they do,
Rinpoche, I heard, excuse me, but I heard that your father was such a good practitioner of Tara that everybody came to him for help.
yeah, that the Tara is something every family memorize. In the evening before we go to bed, we have to recite Tara mantra, recite chanting of Tara, and it's supposed to be protected over all the obstacles. And my father was millions of this wherever he goes. He's just doing nothing but reciting that. That is something Tibetan lay people do anyway.
So can we do the same as the Tibetan lay people? Can we put it on you? We'll just give you our adversity and everything, and you practice for us. I think that's a brilliant idea that they have
What's
such faith. It's amazing, you know.
First,
You just
first of all, I can never say I'm a retreat in always, but I am in many ways in the retreat. Herein, I don't see hardly anybody except an Lama who serves me, give me food. So I am in a way retreat. I say pray in every morning many hours and I dedicate myself bringing awareness, my root guru on my crown, and always asking Lama Doja Sempa for cleansing, purification, recite Doja Sempa mantra, Om Bada Satong all the time. So constantly you have to keep on continue this.
Yeah. But the thing is that for those that don't, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but for those that don't, do you think there's a shortened way that they can? Do you think if they just do a little bit of Dorji Sempa and a little bit of, all of that, that will help them with adversity? I mean, there are lots of people who aren't practitioners. And when they come to you, you could do a lot of prayers for them, but it's not the same as if they actually take it on themselves.
Well, if you invest in Dharma practice, it never will be wasted. It will become sometimes part of your mental habit. So what you're doing is practice trying to bring Dharma into your everyday life. So that you have to put a lot of effort in awareness.
Well, we will. Well, maybe you can give us a tip of putting effort into awareness. One tip before you duck. I know you don't like to come late at night.
As
What?
possible, yes, you have to think, oh, if it's like somebody's going to put your needle, you will be very sharp. Make sure they don't put your needle. So you bring that much awareness in your everyday life.
As though a needle were coming into you.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a pretty good idea.
yeah, that's exactly. I don't know whether that's a good idea or not, but that's how you have to sharpen your awareness.
But I've
Okay?
got to say to everybody that when you see Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, even in his times of ill health, if you say to him, "How are you today?" he goes, "If my mind is good, then I am good." You never hear them talking about, my body's in pain, I can't walk, I can't move. It's if my mind is good, then I am good. So
Yeah,
that's your
mind good remains, you can tolerate a lot of pain. So even body is painful. Oh, it's okay, no problem. I can tolerate. So mind is weak, then body gets weak. Because the body is a slave.
That's
Mind.
really difficult. Well, that's absolutely one. Does anybody want to ask a question quick? If you do, to engage Lama Yeshe Rinpoche?
Anybody can ask me right now anything before I sort of duck away.
And he ducks. Let me tell you something. When we were in Holy Isle, and he used to come in the evening, we used to have this whole group of people, and then he used to give us tea. And if you knew how to engage him, he would stay for ages and ages and ages. Okay. But if somebody came in and started asking all their personal stuff, then he said, "Well, you all enjoyed tea. Good night. I'm going to bed." So I used to say to people, quiet, because I know how to ask. You got to ask him the right questions to keep him here. Okay? Otherwise, he's got,
If you want to ask me anything, you can ask me.
ask quickly if anybody wants to ask. Does anyone want to ask? This is your chance. Anybody want to? Oh, they're so shy, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche. Anybody want to ask anything? One question, you've got a chance.
I want to ask,
Go on, Yvette.
is there a difference between your mind and your thoughts? Or is it one and the same?
Thought comes from mind. Mind doesn't come from thought.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to think. Yes, without mind, you can't have thinking thought.
Yes, but you can have mind without thought.
Thank you.
Have mind without thought.
Yes.
Can have mind without
If
thought.
you say people who achieved mind without thought is perfected their mind, okay?
Yeah, for sure. Like Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, he achieved mind without thought.
Yeah, some lamas do, yes, yes.
Anyone else? None of you want to ask. Well, then you're going to go and bid Lama Yeshe Rinpoche good night if you're not. But we'll carry on with the teaching after that. But does anyone else want to ask? Quick, if you want to. This is your chance, because once he goes into that palace, it's so beautiful for all you Scottish people. He lives in a beautiful place. The temple's exquisite and upstairs is exquisite. And so he comes back to us. We're very, very lucky. And when you go to see him in his beautiful...
You have a palace of your own. The name, house name is good, street name is good, everything is good. So Manani will have no whatsoever to complain. So you have to go back to, I'll give Josh idea, Malani ever say anything. Go back to the house, go back to the mind.
Lama Yeshe Rinpoche came to have lunch in my new home, and then he wandered around in the garden. He didn't say anything, but Annie Lama sent me a message. He says, you live in paradise, but I've got news for all of you. I live in paradise, so does he. You should see him on the top of the mountain in this beautiful palace in Kensington. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. The rooms are beautiful. The view is beautiful. You can't actually believe it. So I think he's as happy as a king there. We're both happy. and I think it's absolutely wonderful that he can come back and spend all this time, you know, in South Africa. And I think South Africa really benefits from all his prayers and everything that he does. So thank you so much.
Mel,
Please,
I just want to ask Lama Yeshe and Annie Lama, do you ever come to Cape Town?
No, Cape Town is so far away, and our Cape Town center is so distance is so long. I can't travel there anymore.
You know, he's finding it difficult because Marion's gone to live in Cape Town now. But what's beautiful, Lama Yeshe, is that we can have, you know, on the Zoom, wherever you go and live, you can come back on the Zoom. And it's absolutely, you know, it really does serve a very good purpose.
Zoom is the best looking. I have long Zoom discussion with Zimbabwe and the Cape Town people and everywhere.
Yeah. Anyway, but Mimi, when you come back, you must go and visit at the top of the thing, if you're lucky. But he loves it there in his beautiful retreat, but never underestimate what he's doing for the country. Okay. That we are very, very lucky to have him doing that in the country. So that's beautiful. So we hope you have a beautiful sleep tonight and come to us in your dream state. And we're going to continue with the Dharma, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche. But thank you very, very much for coming to us tonight.
My pleasure, yes.
Okay. So everybody, we can start with Longchenpa's prayer. I do this little prayer every night. And I think when we're looking at how to transform happiness and adversity into the spiritual path, I think this prayer says it all, because Longchenpa, who was a very famous master, said, when my time has come and impermanence and death have caught up with me, when the breath ceases and the body and the mind go their separate ways, may I not experience delusion, attachment, and clinging, but remain in the natural state of the Dharmakaya. Now, I do that prayer every day. If any of you want it, we can photocopy it and give it to you, because it's really an amazing prayer that you actually understand impermanence and death. And if you look very deeply at that incredibly powerful little prayer, it tells us that at the moment of death, We cannot afford to hold on to anything, not adversity and not felicity, which is happiness. All those attachments would never allow us to remain in our true essence state when neither of these have any intrinsic value. And it's really vital to understand how our aversions and our desires, aversion and desire or attachment, are what hold us back. We don't realize it, but both of these are actually attachments, and they can cause us to truly stay in delusion and a lot of suffering. Now, how do we take them and transform them into our spiritual, into our spiritual path? And the third Drupchen Rinpoche also has written a fantastic text, and there's a commentary by Gautreau Rinpoche. I really like it. It's called Meditation, Transformation, and Dream Yoga by Venerable Gautreau Rinpoche. And he does that text, plus he gives the text, and then he gives a commentary on it. And I think listening to Lama Yeshe Rinpoche tonight, you know what I realized? I realized that for these lamas, it's really quite straightforward to take adversity as your spiritual path. I think that they can easily take adversity. They know how to look in the mirror. And the mirror is called, if you look at the 5 wisdoms, the 5th wisdom is discriminating wisdom, discerning wisdom. And you see in discerning wisdom, how do you discern what is true and what is false? How do you take your terrible adversity, your bereavements, your illness, your real horrible things, your lack of finances? How do you take it and use your discerning wisdom to put it onto the path? That's the first question. The second question is, how do we determine happiness? When you look at our prayers, it says, may all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they go away from creating the causes of suffering. But then it says, may they attain, how does that third line go?
Universal impartial compassion.
No, but before the impartial compassion, it says, may they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. Now, what are they saying there? How do you find that noble happiness? How do you not attach to your joy? How do you take your happiness, use it as the Dharma, and not crave for more when it goes away? It's a very difficult thing. So I want to just tell you that there's a certain type of monkey that is in Asia, and a monkey trap that they use to catch these monkeys. So what these people do is they take a coconut, they hollow out the coconut, and the coconut's attached by a rope to the tree. Then a small hole is made at the bottom of the coconut, and some sweet food is placed into the inside of the coconut. The hole in the bottom is just big enough for the monkey to slide his open hand into the coconut, but not big enough to take the food and bring it out of the hole. Okay, the clenched fist cannot pass through the opening. When the hunters come, the monkey becomes frantic, but it cannot get away. There's nothing keeping the monkey captive except the force of his own attachment. All he has to do is open his hand, and then he can pull his mouth, he can be free. Even so, it's a rare monkey that manages to escape. So the habit of attachment ignores the reality of the present moment while stubbornly holding on to what we have already decided. With stunning persistence, we hold on to what we already know. And for the monkey, his thought process is completely predictable and inflexible. He says, the food is good. If I hold on to this, I will get the food. The more I hold on to this food, the better my chances are of keeping it. Once this set of truth is planted in the monkey's mind, he's unable to accept any new information. The sight of the hunters may make him frantic because they contradict what he's already decided is true. But the information that the hunters are coming brings distress, not freedom. As long as he holds on to what he already knows, any new information that contradicts his habit is very uncomfortable for him. If only he were able to let go of his old truths, he could use this information, this new information, the hunters are coming, as an opportunity to change his thinking and quickly set him free. Now let's go to human beings, okay? Our habits of seeing, while designed to keep us from danger, eventually become so inaccurate and so flawed that they begin to bring more suffering than safety. But we continue to disregard any new information about ourselves and the world, preferring instead to repeat the same old strategies with renewed vehemence. Now, because we do this, we keep falling down the hole. You know that beautiful thing of the 5 chapters. Chapter 1, I walk down the street, I fall in the hole, I take hours to get out, I can't get out, it's too terrible. Chapter 2, eventually I get out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street, I fall into the hole again, and I struggle to get out, but not as bad as the first time. The 3rd chapter, I walk down the street, I fall in the hole, I get out very quickly, but I can't understand how come I fell in the hole again when I knew it was there. The 4th chapter, I walk down the street and walk around the hole. Okay, great. The 5th chapter, I walk down a separate street. Now, how do we walk down a separate street? Because when you do, you take your own Dharma beliefs, and that's what this whole text is about. How do I take my beliefs? How do I actually change what I'm viewing, change what I have? I mean, I deal with hundreds of bereaved people, and it's so amazing to me to see how bereaved people deal with adversity. Some of them are amazing. They walk through the bereavement, they feel the pain, they feel terrible, and they actually walk through until they are able to take that pain and use it with compassion. Other people stick in the pain and can't go further. Yet others decide when they're on a spiritual path, I'm not even going through the pain, but they don't realize that the pain is actually their ability to really get compassion and make that bereavement part of their pathway, and look at discriminating wisdom and mirror-like wisdom and see that what has happened to them is to change that habit of attachment, which is so difficult. You know, I love asking the Lamas about that because I think for them, it's so easy to take adversity as the path. I don't think it's easy for Westerners. Can we put up that thing, Fee? So this is this beautiful little monk who's sitting in front of his master, and he says, "Oh, master, is it proper for a monk to use email in communicating?" He says, "Sure, as long as there are no attachments." Okay, so we've got to stop that real habit of attachment. And I think thanks, Fee, I think when the Buddha turned the wheels of Dharma, he started with the lowest level of what people could understand on a spiritual path. And then he moved to higher levels of dealing with our lives, right into ultimate levels as he turned the wheels. And each of these give us a different way of dealing with our lives and all their aversions and desires in order to liberate ourselves from samsara, which is really important. So samsara is our own creation. When you go on the original path of Shravakayana, Hinayana, it's sometimes called, it's the path of renunciation. Now, those are people who can't take their habits and their attachment and deal with it. So what they do is they go away completely and take themselves, isolate themselves, and that's how they deal with their lives and their adversity in that level. At Mahayana, when you're now starting to be more involved with people, it's called purification. In purification, you're trying to take what you're feeling, all your adversity, and purify it and see it in a kind of a different way. When you come to Vajrayana, it's the path of transformation. So you're actually changing. I think James Lowe gives a beautiful definition. He says, tantric practice is transformation of your sense of self-identity through the use of the identification with the deity. So you see yourself as Chenrezi, you see yourself as Guru Rinpoche, you change that self-identity, and that's how you deal with all your adversity, with all the things you're going with. And then if you go to the highest level of tantric practice, which is Ati Yoga or Dzogchen, it's the path of self-liberation. Now, when the Dodrupchen master, when he actually talks about how you transform, he talks about how you transform on a relative level and how you transform on an ultimate level. Now, that self-liberation is, it liberates of itself. So if you see how creation comes out of the essence, if you just watch it and don't meddle with it, it will just liberate of its own self. It will go back into the essence. And that's what the Dzogchen is really all about, to be able to self-liberate. And that's what we are trying to do. So before I go on to giving you just a little of the text, maybe people want to ask something or say something, please do. I'm really happy to answer, or maybe even what Lama Yeshe Rinpoche said. Does anybody want to ask anything? All okay? Okay, well, let's go on. So with Dodrupchen, what he does is, always when you see the homage in a text, when they're paying homage, he says, "O noble Avalokitesvara, who always rejoices at the happiness of others, who is deeply saddened by others' suffering, who has perfectly realized the great qualities of great compassion, who has released his own joy and sorrow," people are going off and on. He says, "I bow to you, recalling your virtues, and I shall explain the real quintessential teaching on transforming felicity and adversity into the spiritual path. And that is your biggest tool." So tonight, if you do nothing else from this, just ask yourself, how do I deal with my adversity? How do I actually transform it into the spiritual path? How do I take my happiness and not cling to it? How am I satisfied when felicity comes my way, happiness comes my way, and it's a lovely moment, and I find it easy to do my Dharma practice, but what happens when it goes away? How long does it last? How do you get that noble happiness? Mart, you were talking about it. What do you think?
I was talking about it.
Yeah, you said you actually made a comment in the beginning, and you said if you were talking about in the prayer that noble happiness that can never be tainted by suffering? How do you get it?
Yeah, I wish I had an experience.
How do you
No,
think?
but I think I can follow at least intellectually what you're saying or what the texts are saying. So if I don't have any aversion against adversity, if I just let it be, then and I really managed to, because from my own experience that I can say, I think it can be very long lasting, or I allow it to be long lasting, let's put it this way, or I make it long lasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as I don't put more energy in it by pushing it away, I think it does self-liberate.
But how do we look at it? How do we look at, I see people with adversity all day, and how do we look at it? And why has Dodrupchen, why has he taken the homage to Chen Rezi? Why has he done it? Because, you know, the homage in the beginning of a text is really, really important. And Gatrul Rinpoche explains, he says, following the title, the author pays homage. And in his case, he bows down to the noble Chenrezi, the great bodhisattva of compassion. And he says he bows to him in the beginning of the text because Chenrezi is the one who always rejoices in the happiness of others. Now, that's such an important thing. I think when I look in businesses and things, people definitely don't rejoice in the success and happiness of other people. There's jealousy, there's pride, there's a whole array of all sorts of things, you know, and he always rejoices, Chenrezi. His symbol of it is always, he's deeply saddened by the suffering of others. And isn't it when you can go out of the I that Lama Yeshe Rinpoche was talking about, and actually, if you do have happiness, can you use it for other people? And if you do have suffering, can you use it for other people? I've got lots of people who've done the most amazing things out of their bereavement. And I think the only thing that really helps with bereavement, when you say you lose a child, I think the only thing that really helps is when you give service to other people. So I think it's all about taking your adversity and taking your beautiful celebrations and actually using it as a lever to what you have to do to relieve the suffering of others. And I think that's why he uses Avalokiteshvara Chenrezi, because while he is really believing in the suffering of others and what pain they're going through, he's released his own joy and sorrow. He's released it. Think about that. Such a profound thing, actually, that if you are taking out of the I and into other people, you can definitely release your own joy and sorrow. You can give it out. If you've got the joy, you are already offering it about. That is what he's doing. And he is self-liberated. That's why the text starts with this beautiful homage to Avalokiteshvara. And when he says, how do you transform adversity into the spiritual path relatively, with relative truth? I actually want you, after all that we've done, to go to ultimate truth, which is the self-liberation. But at least let's look at how he does it relatively. He says, whenever you are afflicted by sentient beings or anything else, if you habituate your mind to dwelling on suffering only, even the most insignificant circumstance will bring forth great distress. This is because whatever attitude you cultivate, he says, towards happiness and adversity, will by nature grow stronger. So as the power of gradual habituations increases, eventually everything that appears will lead to misery, and there'll be no possibility of any happiness. By not recognizing that this is due to your own mental habits, your habit at the way you look at things. You've just got to look at different people, how they look at things. If you look at Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, and whenever I've seen him, I've seen him silent, but I've never seen him go into depressions like we do. He's always got a chirpy thing to say. And a lot of these masters are, because the habit, by not recognizing this, it's due to your own mental habits. You blame this on external circumstances. And eventually the flames of hatred, evil actions spread endlessly. So appearances arise as enemies. How are you able to train yourselves to see that this adverse circumstance is exactly what I have created and what I need? I was saying to somebody today who says, Melanie, I don't understand my circumstances and why I'm going through this. I said, and yet, that's Lama Yeshe's favorite expression. And yet, you are in the right place at the right time. This is exactly what you need. This adversity is exactly what is going to give you the opportunity, open portal to unity with your true nature. Nothing else. How do you do that? How do you do that? It's a whole change. It's a whole, you have to dispense with the attitude, he says, Dodrupchen, you have to dispense with the attitude of utter aversion to adversity and develop the attitude of good cheer in the face of adversity. Now, how do you do this? Because I know somebody who lost her husband, okay, and in rather tragic circumstances. She's one of these people that never ever, she's not one of these people that show her emotions. She's not one of these people that take adversity and collapse into it. She's not one of these people. But it was very, very weird to see her. And it's been very weird to see people who are not able to grieve sometimes over their adverse circumstances. And they're not able to grieve. And so they haven't done the human thing first and then the spiritual thing. So what I'm saying is that it's really important that you actually go through, let's say, the pain of bereavement. And then once you've gone through the pain, you take that pain and your whole attitude to adversity is transformed into compassion. And then you want to help everybody. You want to tell people, stop it, you two fighting. You really want to transform absolutely that pain of the bereavement into compassion, which you then give out very, very generously. What do you think of that? Is it possible? Because he says, recognize again and again the pointlessness and the great detriment of all the miserable anxiety you experience through regarding adversity as being purely unfavorable. Is it unfavorable? I'm asking you to tell me. Is adversity unfavorable? And he says, thoroughly accustom yourself to the powerful anticipation. From now on, whatever kind of adversity arises, I shall not quail. In this way, the practice cultivates great courage, great courage. Answer me, I want to hear. Can you do this? Or when it happens, do you go, ugh, just take this away, just take this away? If we could see, if we could read our karmic tapestry, if we could see those imprints that we've been talking about in previous weeks, if we could see and read that karmic tapestry, we would actually see that these adverse circumstances are perfect for us. They give us the chance to clean those karmic imprints completely, so that when you die and when you go into, if you don't manage to recognize who you are in the beginning of death and you go to the last bardo, where all the karmic imprints come out of your mind, as Lama Yeshe said, your mind creates and you see it in that bardo and you haven't touched any of it. And these are your deep imprints, your deep impelling consciousness that forces you into another lifetime with those circumstances of adversity, so that you can change whatever imprints you've made. It really makes sense to me to look very deeply when you have got adversity. He says, if you do not react with anxiety due to the strength of your mind, it will be easier to experience and handle even great adversity as if it were as light and flimsy as cotton wool. On the other hand, if you react with anxiety, you will become unbearably oppressed, he says, with overwhelming misery, even in the face of minor adversity. I want to hear from your little voices, please. Come on, Damika. What do you think? I can see lots of things going through your mind. It's very difficult training, but takes a long time. But it's training on your Dharma path. It's really important training. Let's hear what our beautiful Scottish counterparts. Come on, Sherry, tell us what you think. Do you think it's possible? Just unmute yourself. Do you think it's possible?
I think it's probably possible for some people, but I don't think I've managed it yet.
Haven't you? Why? Tell me why. Tell me your pitfall.
Probably lack of focus. I think it's, you can understand this theoretically, but in the heat of the moment when something comes up and you get triggered, it's just boom back to these habitual tendencies, and I think it's probably lack of, like Lama Yeshe Rinpoche said, it was like we need this pin in us. That's the way I took it, what he was meaning, that they keep this pin so we're paying so much attention, not just kind of reacting like with emotions. I think I let my emotions get the better of me in situations, not enough focus.
But what you're saying is so important. And, that's why awareness is the most important tool that we have. And I think when you are in a very bad situation, even to practice in not so bad situation, but I think when you are in a very bad situation, you practice by looking deeply and saying, what is this? Because if we could read our karmic tapestry, and it's actually quite easy to read your karmic tapestry if you look at the repetitive things, mostly the repetitive things in your life, then you can start reading. As soon as I see a person, I do counseling of people, I'm always, when they tell me the story of their childhood, and then the story of their growing up, and then the story of their adult life, and then the story of their later life, and you start putting the same repetitive karmic thing in, you begin to see, why aren't we seeing it? Why aren't we seeing that we are the creators of that adversity? We also the creators of the felicity, the happiness. But why can't we see it? Why do we go back to the psychology and what Lama Yeshe was saying is it's got to be a pinprick of awareness. So maybe when we're going through really adverse circumstances, we've got to sit really, really long and hard and contemplate what is being shown to me. And was this being shown to me earlier in my life? And was this being shown to me even earlier in my life? And why don't I get it? I don't know why we don't get it. Habit. But don't we want to finish these incarnations? Just mute yourself, Sherry, otherwise the whole thing goes haywire. Why don't we want to do it? Yes, Tamika, you were going to say something. Go on.
You can hear me?
I can hear.
Yeah, heavy rain here. Anyway, no, I talked to you before. My sister had a disabled child for 22 years, really severely physically disabled, but the boy knew that he was disabled and he really suffered. But he died 2 years ago. But how she took that loss and adversity and how she went out and reached out to people who are suffering and who have similar children, disabled, severely disabled, not much help, and her compassion. And I remember we were telling her only she could almost go through that pain. Not many people. I was telling her I couldn't. Doesn't matter how much I meditate or she did, and she did it with so much compassion and yeah.
Unbelievable. Emma Ho, because when somebody can see it and when they can see what they are able to do, and this is the actual essence of this text, that Drupchen starts by looking at Chenrezi, and Chenrezi symbolizes that compassionate heart within us, and how Chenrezi looks at both suffering and happiness, wants beings to be happy, but doesn't really care about herself, just wants to give the joy to other people. Then you realize that somebody like her, she's prepared over many lifetimes for this response, to this child. And she knows exactly what to do. And the more she nurtures other people, the easier the adversity becomes. It's like part of what I know I've got to go through, and I will go through it. But when you don't do the human part, like I told you, I once had this family and I made them bring pictures of their child because they were on a spiritual path and they weren't prepared to go through any of the human pain. But what we realize is that the human pain is the part that actually transforms into compassion. So it's really important in the beginning to go through that grief and whatever else you're feeling, and then after that, you're free. It's absolutely amazing. So I think that, in the ultimate sense, both of these authors say, if you, in the instructions on guarding the doors of the senses, in the event of adversity, you should not become engrossed in its characteristics, okay? You should rather get used to placing your mind in its natural state and let it apprehend its own nature. So that's very important in the ultimate, that you actually put it in front of you. You don't analyze it. You just allow it to be. You don't fight against it and you don't embrace it. You just allow it to be what it is. And what happens is the change happens with the adversity, and the change happens inside you. you don't direct it. It's like really such a talent, I cannot even begin to tell you. Because when we look and we see the effects, as he says, we've got to avoid the cause of that adversity and try to restrain all the things that we have to do. We really have to restrain them. And I think that's very, very important. And he says, Gato Rinpoche says, if you are practicing, whenever you are afflicted by another being or anything at all, if you habituate your mind to dwelling on suffering only, then even the most insignificant, tiny circumstance will bring forth distress. This occurs because you always want to accomplish your own needs and fulfill your own desires, which are primarily the 8 worldly concerns leading to non-virtue. And that's your habit. And he says, you allow it to bring you a great amount of distress instead of seeing this as an amazing opportunity for you to take the adversity and start spreading it and start helping and start serving. All you've got to do when you're in that situation is actually just go to yourself and see what you've got to offer and offer it to the universe. When you start your practice in the morning, those of you that are practicing, when you start your meditation practice, you first offer what you've got. So when you're in an adverse circumstance or very difficult circumstance, you offer what you have. I have this pain, I have this suffering, I have this heart sore, and I'm offering it to help other people when they've got it. Now, that's exactly what your sister did, Damika. And it is amazing. And I'm sure that she feels really very, very satisfied. And the compassion develops in such an amazing way, really. And I think it's really important. And if you practice with minor adversity like this, gradually it becomes easier and easier. That's what Drupchen says. So you train your mind to actually, this is what's happened to me, and this is what I put into my practice. I know when something lovely happens to you, don't you all feel that your practice is very light-hearted? You know, if I've had a lovely day, or I've had a lovely morning, or lovely things have happened, and I sit down, I feel that sense of joy, and I feel that sense of everything. What do we do with that? Do we take it and focus it on me? I love this. I want more. I want this to happen. I want this to last, even though it's not going to last. Or do we say, may my joy of today be a wonderful thing on my path, and may I be able to spread it to other people? Can you say that? Yes or no? You can, Kerry, good. You can, Linz. Sort of. So what, when you've got joy?
Depends who, unfortunately.
What does it depend on? It depends not on who. Whoever is the most difficult is the person that you really need to give it to. That's the point. So you take your little bit of joy, and the worst person in your life, you give it to them. That's what the practice is about. Okay. So that always that joy flows. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. The joy flows because you're giving it to other people. Any comments, any questions? Because, you know, you really, I mean, he even says here, for the sake of empowering my spiritual practice, let there be unfavorable circumstances. Okay. I can't say to you that I do that. I don't sit in my room and say, in order to get my spiritual practice up, let there be unfavorable circumstances. I don't do that, but the master does that. He does it. He says, in order to really get everything, it will be so amazing. And he says, to sum up, in order not only to prevent all unfavorable circumstances and adversity from afflicting your mind, but to cause them to elicit a sense of good cheer, you should put a stop to experiences of aversion, both inner and outer obstacles, illness as well as enemies, spirits, gossip. Practice seeing everything solely in an agreeable way. For that to happen, you should stop seeing these harmful situations as something wrong, but give all your effort to see them as valuable, for it is the way our minds apprehend situations that make them agreeable or unagreeable. Can you disagree with that? It's very hard. Because why are we, I was trying to say to Lama Yeshe, why are we like we are? How did we get here? How did we get to say, this is I and this is mine and you can't have it, and any adversity to try and touch it, I'm going to get rid of it immediately. I'm going to put a curse on it. Someone even asked me the other day, is it possible for people to put curses on you? And I said, only if you accept it as a curse, because it's only a mind that is putting a negative thought, and you don't have to eat it. You don't have to have it for breakfast. You can leave it. It's really, really important. And I think that that when we look at all of this, it's so, even the joy, it's so important, because he says, Gato Rinpoche says, in order for us to really deal with adversity and felicity, there are two things you have to practice. The first is to dispense with the attitude of utter aversion to adversity. This you must eliminate. And the second is to develop the attitude of good cheer in the face of adversity. Can you? Can you? I know what you're saying, Shiri. It's really difficult because we're so habituated to holding on to happiness and getting rid of adversity. But this text tells you everything, okay? It says here, he says, by trying to accustom yourself to the powerful anticipation of feeling from now on, whatever kind of adversity or suffering arises, I will not fear it. I will not befriend it. I will just allow it to be. Can I say that once more? You accustom yourself to say, from now on, whatever kind of adversity or suffering arises, I will not fear it. So I won't push it away, fear, false evidence appearing real. I will not befriend it. Hello, adversity, I love you. I won't befriend it. I will just allow it to be. That's the ultimate way. Can you? Can you? Can you die? Can you allow it to be? No. Can you, Rowan? Can you?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Where I mean, I'm doing also with Cameron Tonglen and Lojo. Where I mean, it sounds to me like they would be very close to what we're talking about right here in terms of, but it still feels a little bit like it's not entirely letting it be, because in Lojong, if I get it right, we practice that we take on even more, or right. So we feel we have adversity and say, well, let me take on all the adversity of all sentient beings, and right. So is that letting be, or is it a slightly different?
It's a slightly different thing, but isn't it a beautiful idea? It's the same idea as Dodrupchen's text and what Gato Rinpoche, because what it's saying is, don't become I Don't worry about I. When you're doing your breathing, you are taking in the suffering of other people. So you've got a very good attitude to adversity. You saying, these people are suffering. I'm breathing in their suffering and I'm breathing out my light. So actually, it is a beautiful way of actually doing it. But what is important here is that we're not really attached to adversity or happiness. Everything is just as it needs to be. And Gato Rinpoche says, giving up happiness is not the practice. The main point is not to become mesmerized by happiness as the end result. Okay, you just want to, if you're happy, that's lovely, let me share it. If you're unhappy, that's a wonderful mirror for me to actually look at what I need to do and what I need to clear my imprints. And if I'm doing Tonglen, then let me take, even if I am unhappy or I am feeling wonderful, let me take on all the suffering. That's Avarikiteshvara, Chen Rezi. Let me breathe it all in and breathe out my joy. And similarly, if you are going through, when people are having a great time and they're doing well, let them breathe in other people's suffering and breathe out their joy. If you don't want to do it with breath, just use it as an offering. Say, I'm offering everything that I've got for all sentient beings. So let's just do a quick meditation before we end, because I think that is really, and we can start with the Tonglen breathing. So let me put this on. So sit in your meditation and just breathe in totally and utterly into your total awakened mind, blue as the sky, open, spacious, emptiness, full of possibility. Just know that the sky-like nature will work through you if you just stop grasping onto things, stop analyzing, stop holding on, stop planning, stop grasping, craving. Just allow the beautiful spaciousness of your mind as you breathe in to absolutely fill your being. And as you breathe out, I want you to actually feel like some part of you is holding onto a balloon of whatever adverse circumstances you're facing right now. Look at them right in the face, and then look at your hand. If it's a small adversity, like a disagreement with someone, if you didn't get the deal at work, if someone was rude to you, or maybe you're going through a bereavement, or maybe you've been diagnosed with some kind of illness, whatever your circumstances are, they are perfect. Just don't hold them so tight. As you look deeply into whatever circumstances you've got, feel that you can actually open your balloon hands, holding on to the balloon of what you feel about that adverse circumstance. And just open your hands and let go of the string. Just let it be into the spaciousness of your beautiful blue awakened emptiness mind. And similarly, with the little joys that you might have. You might have even had a lovely meal today, and that gave you a lot of pleasure. You might have seen something cute. Someone might have touched your heart and made you feel beautiful. You might just be looking nice today and just feel good about yourself. but any of the happiness that you feel, transient, deeper. Maybe you've just won a bursary, maybe you've just gotten to go where you want to go for your holidays. Whatever joy you have, see it holding onto the balloon and just let it be into the spaciousness of your awakened, spacious mind. And just know that in your heart, you see that that giving is your beautiful thing, and just quietly offer to the universe from your joyful nectar, however small it is. May I give it out to all those that are suffering. That's how you bring it onto the spiritual path. But you don't hold on to happiness. If you're in a relationship and the relationship started out very nice and gave you a lot of pleasure and joy, that's very beautiful. But when it starts aggravating you, it's also okay. Just see it in the mirror. See that adversity with very good cheer. See that you are in the right place at the right time, and that your beautiful nature of mind can take care of whatever adversity or felicity there is. Just allow it to be. And just fill your whole being with the joy of the Dharma, of the teaching, of everything that you've managed to get. As Lama Yeshe said to me, you have a beautiful place that you're living in now, and be very joyful about it. And I think it's not only being joyful, I think it's sharing that joy, which is how you sustain whatever joy you feel. You share it and share it and share it. So maybe tonight you could take away with you, because I'm only coming back in January. In January, we'll come back sometime in mid-January to continue our things. And you guys from Scotland, you're very welcome to find out, and we'll send you what we're doing if you'd like to ever come. But I really want to say to all of you at the end of this year that may you really have a joyful time, whatever you're able to, but also whatever adversity comes, may we be able to see that it is right for us. May we be able to see that this is something we've created, which is going to change something on our spiritual path, which is going to enable us to really, really go forward. And we also feel it's dedicated to all sentient beings, to all the beings in war, to all the beings in terror, to all the beings who are suffering from hunger and poverty and wars and all the terrible things. We really dedicate these teachings to all of those beings. And through this merit, may all beings attain omniscience. May all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonam diye tamche zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene jega nachi bala tropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. It's impossible.